bringing you lights, camera, and action. A brand new show every Wednesday at 7 p.m. only on Awaz Entertainment. Hello everyone, good evening. You're watching Lights, Camera, Action. I'm your host, Kubra for tonight. And I hope you are all doing great. As every time I get you a new guest, today there's a wonderful lawyer sitting with me who is from a criminal defense law firm. So let me welcome Mr. Joseph Neuberger.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. It's my immense pleasure having you tonight on my show.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
I'm good. It's Monday, a little bit tired already, but I'm good.
I know. How was your weekend?
It was good. I didn't work at all.
Oh,
I
nice.
Relaxed, coached a bit of basketball for one of my kids. It was really nice.
Perfect. And since when are you from, where are you from and since when you are in Canada?
Well, originally born in Montreal, moved to Toronto when I was about 7 or 8 years of age, and I've grown up in Toronto since. And I've been living in sort of the North York area most of my life. And I've been educated in literally in Toronto. I got my law degree and my master's degree in law all in Toronto. So I didn't travel away to some other schools. So I've been in the city a long time.
Nice. So since when are you doing this? Since when are you a lawyer, if I can ask?
Well, I was called originally in 1993, so I'm coming up on 30 years now. So,
wow.
Yeah, a long time. And I've been practicing criminal law ever since I graduated. So I've been practicing criminal law coming up February 9th, will be 30 years. And I have my own law firm, which is called Neuberger and Partners, where I've got 4 associates, 2 paralegals, and a law clerk. And we're a busy criminal defense law firm.
So where is your office? In Toronto?
Yeah, so we have an office that's at Eglinton, the Allen Expressway, a little bit removed from all that horrible construction. And then we have another office in Markham, which is at Woodbine and 14th Avenue, because we service a lot of areas, including Brampton, Newmarket, and all over. So we have 2 offices, so it's easier for clients to come see us. Okay,
so as you mentioned, you're from Montreal.
Yes.
So you didn't think of opening over there?
No, so my parents wanted to move, and at the time, so I'm a little older than you, so I'm 55. So when my parents were there was a little bit of uproar when I was young, the FLQ crisis and others, so they decided to leave and come to Toronto. So there was a big exodus back at that time, and so a lot of Montrealers came to Toronto and set up.
Nice. Okay. So what motivated you to pursue a career in law, at criminal law?
I tried when I was in law school. I liked the other areas, and I enjoyed it, but I liked sort of being in court, and I liked doing something that impacted people's rights, so that we could try and help people. And I found it interesting and intellectually more pleasing than doing something like commercial law or some other area. And we're in court all the time, so it was sort of the excitement that I wanted. And so it's carried on for 30 years, and I still love what I do. Okay,
do you work with a team?
I do. So typically we work in units. So if somebody comes to me to retain me on their case, I'll have a junior lawyer on it. So as I said, I have 4 other individuals with me, and then we'll also have a paralegal dedicated to it as well. So it'll usually be 3 people. We have somebody else in our office who's a legal researcher, but she's a former journalist. And some of the cases we do are defense work with respect to domestic cases or sexual related cases, and so she assists with that. We advocate a lot, and we do a lot of cases for people who are wrongfully accused. So it's one of the niche areas that we practice in. And Diana, who works with us, has her own non-for-profit organization called Lighthouse for individuals who are wrongfully accused. So it's sort of a very niche area, and we're selective a little bit about our clientele, but it's a lot of fun trying to right a wrong, you know?
Okay, so I have a question for you. What is actually a criminal law, and what areas you work with?
Okay, so criminal law is a broad area. So it's when somebody commits an offense under the Criminal Code of Canada. And that can include things like a theft or mischief or impaired driving, robbery, homicide, murder, that type of stuff. We do a lot in the area of sort of assault and threatening cases, as well as sexual related offenses. And a lot of our work comes out of high conflict divorces. So over the years, for whatever reason, I've developed a large clientele where people are involved in a divorce and there's family lawyers handling it. But for whatever reason, one party charges the other at a certain point in the litigation, and they get charged with offenses, which can, so if I'm representing a man, it could be domestic assault or threatening or sexual assault, could be historical allegation, and that's where I get involved, and I work with the family lawyer, and we defend the people.
So what's the ratio between men and women?
It's an interesting question. So at the beginning, the ratio used to be almost 100% male. So men would be charged, and the female in the case would, so we call them the complainant, would lay the charge. Now there's been a trend over the last 5 to 10 years where we have probably about 20-25% of our clientele are women in high conflict divorces. And the sad thing about it is that these two people who used to be married and love each other now hate each other. And it's really unfortunate. And they want to use the criminal justice system as some sort of leverage in family court, either to get more money or to get access to the kids or to stop the other spouse from living at the house, all sorts of things. And it's a real shame, and it can be quite emotional for everybody. So we've seen that trend, and it's gotten worse over the years. So we have maybe 25-75% female, male.
More 80% male.
Yeah, although it's evening up a little bit. As I was joking with you before we started, equality there, we're seeing a little bit more on each side. But the bad thing is they're using the criminal justice system to try and do other things.
What's the community you get a lot of clients from?
Well, it's all over. But we have a fairly significant clientele from the South Asian community. That's not because they're at any greater sort of risk of being charged in any other group. So we have people of all sorts of groups. South Asian, like me, Jewish, whatever. It comes from everywhere. But we have quite a following in the South Asian community. One of my associates, Yuvika Jory, joined us about 3 years ago. She was a lawyer in Mumbai and went to the United States, got her master's degree, and then joined me here. So she's also furthering the practice in the community. And there are a lot of people in the community who don't necessarily know how to protect their rights. And so something bad happens to them, and it takes a while for them to find themselves to the right lawyer to help them. And that's where we come in.
Nice. Can you explain me what a strong case is?
So from a prosecution standpoint, a strong case can usually involve not only the statement of a complainant, but it would have other evidence, something of an independent nature. And actually, I'm glad you asked this, because one of the things that people don't understand is clients will come in and they'll go, well, there's no evidence. She just said this to the police, or he just said this to the police, and it's not true. Well, the statement of a person, so a complainant, that's evidence, and that's enough evidence that can result in somebody being convicted. And that's where it's important to protect people who are vulnerable, but it's also can be misused to convict people who are innocent. But a stronger case will have other evidence. So sadly, if it's a case of assault and there's visual injuries or there's medical reports or there's other witnesses to it, that would make a case stronger. But it's really important to mention that evidence can simply just be the statement of one person accusing somebody else, and when they testify in court, that's evidence and it can convict somebody.
Wow, nice. And how often do your cases go for trials?
For me, mine are about 90% trial-oriented. We don't typically resolve cases unless Crown attorneys are withdrawing cases, and we have a lot of withdrawals. So, in other words, we work with the Crown and establish why their case isn't as strong as they think it is. So the Crown is the one who prosecutes. So the Government of Canada has Crown attorneys who prosecute. And it used to be Her Majesty the Queen. It's now switched over to His Majesty the King. So we're all getting used to that.
I know.
But we talk with these Crown attorneys. We give them evidence sometimes. And we establish certain ways why their case isn't as strong. So there's a good percentage to get withdrawn. But a lot of our cases go to trial.
And how often do you appear in the courthouse?
Well, over the pandemic, I appear by Zoom.
Nice. So you don't go in person now?
No, well, we do now. It's getting back to normal, but it was really weird. We, back in 2019, before, I was in court every day. We're running trials every week. And then the pandemic hit, and we all have to switch to online trials through Zoom. And that's still now, you still see maybe about 40% of the trials by Zoom and 60% in person.
Okay.
So I prefer the in-person trials because it's nice to see human beings.
So you have gone back to in-person now?
We have, but not as much as I would like yet.
Okay. And how long do you expect a client's process to take usually?
Excellent question.
Yeah.
Most people want something resolved quickly, but if it's going to go to trial, it's not less than about 12 to 15 months.
Okay.
It takes a lot of time because you've got to go through a whole process of getting the evidence, assessing it, working with the client, and then eventually setting a trial date. And the courts are extremely busy.
Yes.
So these cases take quite a while to come to trial, sometimes even 24 months.
Okay.
So it does take time. People have to have patience.
So you have so many cases, right? So each case is different, I think, the time limit for them.
It is,
Okay.
Although generally, given my practice, which are domestic related and sexual assault related cases, they're no less than 15 months. And usually they can go up to about 2 years or 2.5 years until we get to trial.
Right. Okay. And tell me about any of that case you learned a lot from.
Well, you know, as you develop with these cases, you learn a lot from cross-examining people. So one of the important things that, frankly, for anybody who's looking for a lawyer, is not all lawyers are created equal.
Okay.
So there are those who have more experience than others. So
Yes.
in our office, we've got a lot of trial experience. So I've cross-examined maybe about 10,000 witnesses in my career. Yeah, a lot. Yeah, hence the white hair. But, you know, with that comes a lot of knowledge and a lot of skill in learning. So you learn how to ask questions, how to maneuver a person to get at the truth. That's what's taught me the most about it, because there's a very strong human element and a strong psychological element to trials, and it takes time to develop that skill. That's been the biggest teaching that, you know, was over 10, 15 years, and I'm still learning.
I know.
And it's enjoyable though. Like it's, if you separate your, you know, it's like a doctor doing surgery. Like if you distance yourself from the stuff that you're dealing with, the process and the intellectual aspect of it is a lot of fun.
Yeah, you are a criminal lawyer, but I see you smile all the time, so that's nice to know.
Yeah, I like it. I gotta, I'm sorry it's bad stuff that happens, but I really do enjoy it.
Okay, tell me about the most challenging case you have worked on.
Oh boy. So there was a few. There was a big famous case I did a long time ago with a shooting at a place called California Sandwiches, where I used to act for mafia clients.
Okay.
And there was a shooting and everything was recorded because one of the witnesses happened to be an agent for police. So there was on-site recording going on. That was a very difficult case. There was another conspiracy to commit murder where I had a client, and again, she and he, so these were people together, hired a hitman. And the hitman recorded every single conversation they were having about planning the murder.
Wow.
So when it was eventually turned, and there was no murder that happened, but they got charged with conspiracy to commit murder. So when that person was interviewed by police, there was like hours of recordings that they turned over to the prosecution. So you can imagine that's not always the best thing if you're defending your client, although I did win.
You did win.
We did win.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, so what generates a lot about your clients?
A lot of it, frankly, is these high conflict divorces. You know, I don't know if it's a trend because people have gotten more, you know, easily upset or unhappy in marriages, or life just sucks for people more for some reason, and they get into these divorces and they get angry. And for some reason, the line between that love and hate is pretty thin, and people lay charges and they look back. And, you know, part of it also is they look back. I'll tell you two things. They look back at it and see things in a different light. And they look back at it and think that they were wrong, that they were assaulted or sexually assaulted. And so they lay a charge. And then the other aspect, which is, so those are the ones in high conflict divorces. But the other actually, which terrifies me a lot, are students.
Students?
Yeah, we have a lot of young students, mostly male, who are in the university setting or high school setting. You've heard the stuff that happened with Hockey Canada, where, you know, there was those issues. But there's issues with respect to universities and what's consent. And there's been a lot of confusion about, you know, young people getting together and having sex and they're drinking and whether that's consent. So that's been an area where we've seen a lot of cases come out of where frankly I've seen a lot of false accusations and not necessarily
assaults and stuff.
Yeah, but maybe not even fully intentional, but just a complete misunderstanding of what the law is and what they felt at the time.
Right. So we'll take a short break.
Okay.
And so let's take a short break and we'll be back and talk more with our wonderful lawyer. Thank you. Hello everyone, welcome back to my show, Lights, Camera, and Action. I'm your host, Kubra. So we have a wonderful lawyer sitting with us. So welcome back, Mr. Joseph Neuberger.
Thank you.
So, okay. So tell me, how do you consider yourself an aggressive or settlement-minded lawyer?
Definitely not settlement-minded.
Okay.
So in criminal cases, it's either guilty or not guilty.
Okay.
And the implications of somebody being found guilty are very severe. It can range from losing employment, being stigmatized, but also losing your liberty. You go to jail.
Okay.
And many of the cases that I deal with, people are looking at significant jail. So we fight our cases out and we go to trial. And again, as I've said, we've attracted a lot of clients where there really are, or we get a good sense of false allegations. And so we really want to try on behalf of our clients to get to the root of things and to frankly save their lives, because they're looking at multiple years in jail. So it's definitely not settlement oriented.
So how can a client help you defend them?
Well, that's a good question. So one of the things they can do is give us a strong history of their background and their relationship to whoever is charging them. So in cases that we do that are, again, domestic related or sexual related, we need a strong history of understanding what the dynamic was between them and what their version of events was. In other cases, we've had other severe cases like homicides and others. Again, their input as to what happened and giving us another view is very helpful. But in a lot of these cases that we do that come out of these high conflict divorces, their history is really important, and then access to their family lawyer and the family court documents is extremely important, because it provides us with a wealth of information to learn more about the case and then to cross-examine the complainant with. So clients are very much, very, very important to their own defense.
Okay. And what steps should your clients be taking to protect themselves?
It's a good question. So if somebody is in a high conflict divorce, then I think the first thing they should do is calm down, try and take the high road. So before anybody's charged, people get very emotional. So my advice is trying as best as you can to remain calm. If you can't, get a therapist. Find somebody to help you work through things. And remember that everything that you write to your former spouse or soon to be former spouse could be read by a judge. And, take the high road. And if you have children, remember, you should be child focused. No matter how emotional you are or how hurt you are or how you have anger towards the other party, it's not worth the health of your child.
Absolutely.
Their emotional well-being is more important. So remember them, take a step back. And, you'll see it in movies or sitcoms or stuff where people are in a divorce and they're texting each other, I can't believe you did that. Well, you're not answering me back. Don't do it. No, but they do. They're like constant, stop, send one text.
Ignore them.
Make it meaningful. Don't engage them. Don't give them a dance partner. If it starts to get unhelpful, just make sure your texts are like, I'm picking up the kids at this time, or I'm picking them then, or whatever. Don't add extra stuff. And if they get into it, if they start annoying you with something, just delete and just do something else. It's hard. It's really hard for people to do.
Yeah, when you have kids, it's literally hard, I think.
It's hard because it's very hard. I went through a divorce, had 3 children. Well, I still have. They're actually with me full time. So one of the benefits of divorce is sometimes you get rid of them for half the time. Well, I got to keep them all the time. So I'm just joking with you a little bit. But, it's very hard because you're focused on the kids. You're focused on your, what's going on with the other party. And you're trying not to get into these stupid fights, but you do. So it's very important to try and take time before you respond to the other person and focus on your children.
Perfect.
Then you don't need to call me.
Okay. So what is worth fighting for and what is worth letting go?
So it's a good question. So in my business, people come to me when it's too late. And, there's sometimes when I've been retained by someone who thinks that they're going to get charged in a family case. And I've said to them, you're taking a position. So when I've looked at their family court arguments, I've said, you're taking a position that's backing the other person into a corner. So it could be like, I want sole custody. You're a bad parent. And they keep doing it. And then the other one starts to say, you were abusive. So they start to get into this fight. So the advice that I've given them is children need both parents.
Absolutely.
Rarely have I seen a situation where the other parent is so deficient they can't be a parent. So I say, step back. Your children need the mother. Your children need the father. Don't be so aggressive with that position. And if it's about money, seriously, money comes, money goes.
100%.
Take it easy, be fair. And we've had a few cases where people have come to us before being charged. There's that talking about it, and then we calmed it down.
Okay.
And so I think, you have to not be always completely hungry about the property and money. Be focused on the kids. Remember, the kids need both parents.
Absolutely. What are the odds of settlement?
So if you're asking me about the divorce stuff, I think odds are very good. I don't practice family law, but the odds of having a reasonable settlement are good if people want to settle. If people don't want to settle, they can fight for 5 years, 10 years if they want to, and just go bankrupt. Literally. So it's always within their interest to try and come to a resolution for their own mental health and for their own financial well-being.
Right. Okay. Are there other ways of solving legal problems?
So in criminal law, sometimes there's mediation with minor offenses.
Okay.
So the criminal justice system has tried to integrate some sort of restorative justice process where you can maybe mediate and apologize and talk without anybody being found guilty. But it really hasn't made a lot of headway. And this is where the politics comes in, because our governments, and it really doesn't matter who, it could be the Conservatives or Liberals, I forget NDP, because I don't think they're ever coming in power, but leaving that aside, they all talk tough on crime. And so when they talk tough on crime, it doesn't leave a lot of maneuvering room within the justice system for those who are really working in it to come up with creative solutions to avoid a trial and to just avoid stigmatizing people. So it's really a zero-sum game still. And that's because, frankly, of what the political system does, and it convinces our public that we have a very dangerous society, which we don't. And it convinces the public that we need harsher penalties, which we don't. We just need more creative solutions.
Right. So how do you often communicate with your client during the case?
Email. Mostly email and telephone and meetings, Zoom meetings, but a lot of email, and we update our clients regularly, sometimes once a week. Clients will be emailing me nonstop. You may see me on my phone and I'm going like this. So I'm responding them to all the time.
That's nice. So what about like your team? Your team, they can also communicate with your team?
Yeah, everybody does. So everybody has a role. So if I'm the lead lawyer on it, I'm generally responding, but sometimes I'll have my junior do it. But they're always updated, and there's a lot of emails that go out.
I know.
And we try and have regular meetings with the client so they know what's going on, especially if it's over 1.5 years or 2 years. You need to touch base with the person so they know you're involved with the file and you're working for them, and they feel that level of trust and confidence with you.
Right. And do your clients have any options besides going to a trial?
It's when we're able to negotiate sometimes a withdrawal, and either we convince the government that their case isn't good, or in some cases we send our client off for therapy, and we get something called a peace bond. That's an order of the court to keep the peace, be a good person, don't contact them, and they get withdrawn. The charge gets withdrawn. We do that every so often. We just had a case we resolved now out of a divorce. One spouse thought the other one was cheating. Boom, that spouse got charged. They're in a bad divorce. The client who was charged lost their temper and was yelling and screaming, and it was good. So we sent them off for some therapy, like conflict management and stuff like that. And the parties were separated for enough time that we were able to get a peace bond. And the peace bond doesn't have any bad effect on an individual. So the charges are withdrawn and they're innocent under the law. So that's a good result. But that's maybe 10-15% of our work. The rest of it really does go to trial.
And how do they access their files?
So we give them copies of everything. We give it electronically and in hard copy. So if the client if the client is very savvy from technology standpoint, a lot of them will want it electronically. Others, like me, a bit more of a dinosaur, I want to see it in paper and read it and everything. So we give them hard copies, and they can have both. But we make sure they have access to absolutely everything.
And if I can ask you about your fee structure?
It's expensive.
Wow. That's good.
Yeah, so let's talk about this for a moment because it's important. So there's, criminal lawyers typically bill either in what's called a block fee arrangement or hourly. I've been practicing almost 30 years now, so I charge hourly plus disbursements and tax. So at my level of experience, I'm not taking cases on for a low fee. But what you get for that is my experience level, and I'm able to win probably about 98% of the cases I deal with. And there are other lawyers in my office who are very experienced. So there's lawyers who have 15 years experience and 10 years experience, and everybody has a master's level of education. We're all certified specialists. So some will offer block fees, but they're usually not less than $7,000 or $8,000 for a regular file, plus disbursements and tax. And what's really important for people to understand if they want to be educated about this is cheapest isn't always the best. If you really like, a good suit, you buy a really cheap one, it's going to last about 5 minutes, If you want a really good defense, you need somebody who really knows what they're doing.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, the cost long-term will be significant because you can be found guilty and wind up in jail.
100%.
So there are a lot of lawyers who will charge very low block fees, but they just don't do the work. You can see that they haven't done anything. You see in our files, they're all in binders, they're read, they've got sticky notes, we've emailed the client, we work with them. It takes time, to work a case. So it's not inexpensive, but you have to invest in your future because if, God forbid, you're convicted, you lose your job.
Absolutely.
For clients who are permanent residents or who haven't applied for permanent residence, they're out of the country. So it's very serious for men. I mean, we have clients who are like, I can't believe that if I'm convicted, I'm shipped back home. And we're like, yeah, that's our government policy. They lose their permanent status and they're gone. It's scary, actually, when you think about it. Because if a person is wrongly accused and they're facing a serious charge where they can go to jail for 2, 3, or 4 years, they lose their liberty and they lose everything they built here in Canada. And then they go back to a home where they no longer have a structure or a support group anymore. So it can be very devastating.
Right. And how do you anticipate as how much a case will cost?
So it depends. So that if it's like an assault or a threatening, it probably, if it goes to trial, will be a couple of days. So you're able to set out a budget. It could be, as I said, $7,000, $8,000, $9,000, or $10,000. If it's a sexual assault case that I'm defending, those cases are much more complex because there's new laws that are in place that Justin Trudeau and his justice minister put into place, which are very cumbersome. It causes real access to justice issues. Those cases can, once we estimate them, they're usually not less than a week. If you're doing it in front of a jury, it can be longer. So we set out a budget, but they can cost 20, 30, or 40,000, or maybe even more if it's very complex. So it can be costly and time consuming. But everybody has to realize that the government has put in new laws that makes it even more difficult to defend yourself.
Right. Absolutely.
And that's what people, I'm sorry if I say this, if I talk a little too much, but the Supreme Court of Canada came out with a judgment that actually said conviction rates are low. We must do more. And they were ruling on some government legislation. So our government's not always benign. They want to see conviction rates go up. So to you or I, or to a person who's never been charged, they go, yeah, well, who cares? Criminals are bad people. But the people I represent are people you'd love to go to dinner with or hang out with or talk to. They're nice people. They've got great jobs. They work hard. They got families. They're not necessarily guilty of anything, but they're facing these overwhelming burdens. So we have to cost it out with them effectively, work with them, but we also got to get the job done for them.
Right. And there is an area you practice, the professional discipline. Can you please explain me about it?
Yeah, so that's a small area of our practice. So professional discipline can be any professional, like a dentist, a physiotherapist, a massage therapist, even lawyers who get charged or are charged under their professional discipline legislation. So for example, we've had dentists or massage therapists who've been accused of doing something inappropriate, akin to a sexual assault or something else. They may not face criminal charges, but they face disciplinary offenses before their tribunal. So it's much like a criminal charge, and if they're found liable for it, they lose their license. So I've represented dentists, massage therapists, some doctors, and there's in many of those cases there's been criminal charges and professional discipline. Also teachers, for example.
Oh.
Yeah.
Nice. And you also appeared on the media. Like I have seen your interview on CP24. Can you tell me how many news or whatever channels you have been on?
Well, I've been on media for a long time. So I used to do a lot for CBC. So in some high-profile trials, I was on their main shows, just giving legal commentary. I've been on global news many times in CP24 about certain areas that are more closer to what I defend, and then about constitutional issues.
Nice.
But it's challenging because I'm in trial a lot. So if they call and they go, "Hey, Joe, can you come on?" I'm like, "I'm sorry, I'm in court right now, so I can't." But I used to do a lot for CBC, who I really love doing work with, because they talk to us a lot about how to present the issues. But it's been fun. I've liked to give those commentary because it educates the public.
Nice. So let's take a short break and we'll be back and talk more with our wonderful lawyer. Hello everyone, welcome back to my show, Lights, Camera, and Action. I'm your host, Kubra. So we have a wonderful lawyer sitting with us. So welcome back, Mr. Joseph Neuberger.
Thank you.
So I've seen your podcast.
Love to talk about that.
Yeah. So Mr. Joseph has his own podcast. I would like you to watch those podcasts and then we'll return back.
Canada's a one-party recording country. Like in the States, they have some places where everybody has to know they're being recorded.
What you're saying is if you record a conversation in Canada, you need one-party consent.
Yeah.
So if I'm having a conversation with Max, our producer, if I record that and it's just a two-way conversation, it's legal.
I love juries. I think they're a great... Okay, we'll fix the table.
How can this be going to trial when there's no evidence? Because this is not a paid advertisement.
I really like this. No, it's not, but that's really good.
It is.
That's really good whiskey.
We should have more access to information on jurors and have a civilized, polite way of making inquiries to root out biases.
Every lawyer I meet is so really, hilariously funny, except for you. And everybody lost it.
If there's anything left in there.
There's one more.
Okay. Until next time.
Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed all of my guest podcasts today. So let us talk more about the podcast. So tell me, when did you start and what made you start this podcast?
Well, thanks for asking. So it's a podcast called Not on Record. It's on YouTube, Spotify, anywhere where you can get it. So it's a podcast focused mainly on criminal justice issues in Canada, although we cover some issues in the United States or the UK. So it started during the pandemic a year and a half ago, because there were no other talk shows or podcasts available in Canada talking about important criminal justice issues. And I'm quite outspoken, and I've been, as you've noted, I've been in the media. So I've never had aspirations to be a judge or run for politics or anything. I just wanted to represent my clients. So one of my co-hosts, Diana Davison, who's this advocate for the wrongfully accused, who now works with me, we decided to create this podcast in our basement. So it's filmed in our basement.
Nice.
We got boxes around us. We got a bottle of scotch, and we just talk.
Wow.
And we find it very cathartic, and we have a lot of fun doing it. But we try and educate the public on important issues that affect men and women and youth. Issues that people don't really know about because they are not, they just don't experience it until it's too late. So that's how it came about, and it's been a lot of fun. And now we're starting to interview guests from other jurisdictions who've had experiences with the criminal justice system. So we're filming one this week with somebody coming over from the UK who's promoting their books on what it was to be in the criminal justice system. So it's starting to really catch fire now. So it's a lot of fun.
Wow. So can you tell me the days you do this podcast and when does it air on YouTube?
Sure.
What time?
So typically a podcast will drop on a Sunday evening around 8 p.m.
Okay.
We'll have one premiere every Sunday. We shoot them either on a Tuesday or a Wednesday night, but a lot of it depends on what.
But it airs on Sundays.
It airs on Sundays, but we shoot them during the week, and we try and time it because we've got trials.
So it's once a week?
once a week.
And what time? Evenings?
8 p.m.
8
It'll
p.m.
premiere on a Sunday night.
Oh, nice. So you have been doing this since COVID?
Yeah.
2 years? 1.5
About a
years?
year and a half now. So we're in our second year now, but we've got 43 episodes and a lot of these short clips and stuff up.
So you talk to or you interview?
So we'll talk amongst ourselves. So much like how you and I are talking.
Okay.
So Diana and myself will talk.
Okay.
Christopher,
And
my
then
partner, will be in as well sometimes. And then every so often we'll have a guest. So we have this guest coming this week who will sit with us and we'll interview them and talk about it. But a lot of what we do is talk about the law, new cases, but we do it in a more easy way for everybody to understand.
Right.
And it's a more relaxed atmosphere with a little bit of whiskey.
I know, I have seen your podcast, so it was interesting and enjoyed it.
No, thank you. I really appreciate that.
So how much, how long is it is it like half an hour or 1 hour?
Some episodes run a bit longer. So if it's a complex topic, and you'll see me in the podcast almost apologizing, we can go out 55 minutes.
Okay.
Our longest was 1 hour and 10 minutes. We try and keep them to between 30 and 40 minutes.
Right.
Because sometimes it's too much for people. And usually if it's a longer topic, we'll break it into 2 separate podcasts.
Nice.
So I might look like I'm wearing the same thing and we just broke it into 2 episodes. But we try and keep around 30 to 40 minutes.
Okay, nice. So what else do you do apart from being a lawyer?
I'm a parent, I'm a husband. I like to cook. I like to coach basketball. I like to read, but I don't get as much opportunity as I used to. And I love to travel. So once we were able to travel after the pandemic, my wife and I took off. I love taking the kids away at least once or twice a year for a nice holiday. I need a beach and palm trees and
warm areas.
One of our favorite places to go in Mexico, they got basketball courts literally right by the ocean.
Wow.
So we get to play basketball outdoors, get a suntan, and hear the ocean right beside us. So basketball is a big thing in my family. My kids, my daughter and my 2 boys really love basketball, and it's a lot of fun. But I've over the pandemic, I learned how to cook better.
Okay.
And so we tried different dishes, and my wife and I love cooking.
Nice.
And I put on 20 pounds as a result of it. But, it's still a lot of fun.
No, you're not.
Thank you. It's very kind. But you promised you'd thin me on camera, so.
Oh my God, okay.
I'll say anything in front of an audience.
And so because you're a busy lawyer.
Yes.
So when do you get time for holidays?
So it's a good question. You got to balance life and work, right?
I know.
So I book about a year ahead of time. So thank God we'll be going away on December 25th for about 9-10 days.
Oh, I was about to ask that.
Yeah. So we're going to go away. So I booked that a year ago.
Okay.
And then I booked.
Oh, nice.
I booked a summer holiday a year ago. We just booked another one for next summer, and we're thinking about in 2 years going to Vietnam. So we're starting to plan that.
Nice.
Because I heard the food there is really good.
Really?
Yeah, it's Asian.
I've never been there, so I don't know.
It's Asian French fusion, and apparently it's really, really, really good.
Okay.
And they also have palm trees in the beach area, so we want to try it. But you got to book at least a year in advance because you're booking your trials. So you got to book out, 2 weeks at the Christmas time, the winter break. The kids come back from university, and then maybe I take a week in March and then something in the summer. But you've got to book it. And if all you're doing is work, you're just
book ahead of time.
100%. And you got to have a break. You got to have a break.
Of course. So you're all ready for Christmas
I'm ready.
and winter.
Well, no,
How's
I'm
the
not
weather
ready
in
for I'm not
Vietnam?
ready for the snow.
Okay. I know no one is. What about the weather in Vietnam? Right, you're going to Vietnam, right? So what is the weather?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So I was looking at when's the best time to go. The only time I can go is not the best time.
Oh, so there's winter as well.
Yeah, but it's the rainy season. So the temperature is like between 30 and 35 degrees pretty much
that's
all
not
year
bad.
round. No, it's not that bad, but in this between I think they say April or May to about October, it's more humid and it's more of rainy season. But from what I understand, and I had a very good client who's no longer a client, because all charges were withdrawn and is innocent.
Okay.
And he's a big business guy in Vietnam, so he's sending me all sorts of information. So he goes, Joe, it doesn't rain more than half an hour each day. Don't worry, it'll be great. So we're planning on going in July.
Rain is good.
Rain is fine, 2024.
Better than snow.
Yeah, I
think so.
Why did we all move here?
I'm going to UK and there is rain as well. So
when are you going to the UK?
During Christmas.
It's beautiful at Christmas time.
I know. No snow though. Actually, we're running away from snow.
Just a bit cool, but it's extremely gorgeous then.
It is, yes.
Oh, that'll be very nice for you.
Yeah. It was so nice talking to you.
Thank you. Very nice talking to you.
Thank you so much to come on my show. And
My pleasure.
I really enjoyed interviewing you
Thank you.
asking a lot of questions. I hope I didn't bore you.
Not at all. This was great. Thank you very much for having me on.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I hope you guys enjoyed. We had a wonderful guest tonight. I hope you're doing good, and I'll see you back next week, same time, same show, Lights, Camera, and Action. Don't forget to watch every Wednesday at 7 p.m. with Kubra. Thank you very much. Hi, I'm Kubra. I'm bringing you Lights, Camera, and Action, a brand new show every Wednesday at 7 p.m. only on Awaz Entertainment.